What is up, guys, and welcome to Natalie's Reptile Room.
And today, we have the best snake we ever had.
We got a really cool one, and
it's Casper. And guys, it's really hard to see him on this table.
And what's the cool thing about his eyes?
They're blue.
Just like you.
And guys,
so today, as always, we'd also like to thank our newest subscribers, one of which is Lupe Puentes and Remarkable Rat. But thank you guys very much. Natalie and I greatly appreciate that, don't we? Can you say thank you, guys?
Thank you, guys.
Well, real quick, we'll just say also, there's some other people that have subscribed. We're up to like 40 people now, but I think the accounts are on private, so we can't see the names. But Natalie and I greatly appreciate each and every one of you, don't we?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So today, we are introducing Casper. What is Casper?
A snake.
What kind of snake? A ball.
A ball python.
Ball python.
And guys, at the show, we actually saw a python.
Oh yeah, at the reptile show we did a video on. They had a couple of Blue Eye Leucistic pythons there, didn't they?
Yep.
So today, guys, we are going to go over some general facts of the ball python, their enclosure, and their diet.
And I hold him.
You ready to hold him?
Yeah.
Oh, he is awesome, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good.
But Casper here is a Blue Eye Leucistic ball python. Remember how to say that?
Blue Eye assistant.
Blue Eye what?
Blue Eye.
Leucistic.
Buddy, you don't have to get my face so far, like.
So as we said, this is a Blue Eye Leucistic ball python, also called Lucy's or Bells. Me and Natalie absolutely love this snake. So Natalie and I believe that Blue Eye Leucistics belong in every single top 10 snake video, just out of the sheer beauty of them, right?
Yeah,
But and the coolest thing about him is he's got blue eyes, just like
me.
And
You.
you. So, do you remember what leucistic means and what the difference between a leucistic and albino snake is?
Leucistic?
Yeah, but do you remember what we talked about, the snake that's leucistic and one that's albino? So a lot of people actually confuse leucistic with albino, and we'll explain the difference to you guys. So basically what albino is the absence of melanin, which is what gives the snake its color. Basically what gives beautiful snakes their awesome colors, right?
Yeah.
And they are pretty, especially this one.
Yeah.
So not only can albino lead to an all-white color, but a lot of albino snakes are like a yellow. You remember all the albino snakes we've seen there? Being leucistic doesn't only affect the melanin in the snake or animal, it affects all of the colors in the animal. Awesome patterns like the gaboon viper and the rainbow boa, right? Leucistic not only affects the melanin in the snake, but it also affects other color pigments as well. So the two key differences between albino and leucistic is albino snakes, it not only affects the melanin in their skin, but it also affects their blood vessels in their eyes, which is why a lot of albino snakes you'll see have like red eyes. You've seen that before.
Yeah. And guys, it can lead to white and yellow, like Daddy said, like white colors.
And then the second part to that is leucistic can affect just certain parts of the snake. Albino affects an entire snake. Being leucistic can be like, maybe this part's all white, and then he has normal colors, all white, normal colors, and it comes out like blotchy.
Yeah, and guys, you have to hold them like this because they really, these guys are not really fast. They're just like a tiny bit fast.
They can be when they're trying to get away, right?
Yeah, they can be kind of fast.
but you're doing a very good job handling him. And then another very noticeable thing here with Casper is the pits on his lip. You see that?
Yeah.
Now he's got those pits on his lip. Do you remember what those are for?
It's for them to breathe.
Yes, that's what their nostrils are for, but remember what we talked about with the pits on like a pit viper? It lets them see in what?
Heat.
Heat. So they can use that to detect prey, mammals, things that are warm-blooded, and also to thermoregulate their own body. So to look around, find places that are cool, or
And
find
guys,
places that are hot.
These guys are like cold. They are like cold-blooded, and guys, if they bite you and if they have sharp teeth, don't be mad at them.
Yeah, because they're just defending themselves, right?
Yeah, they're just defending themselves. They don't want anything to hurt them or anything like that.
Trying to eat them, right?
Yeah, it's gonna try and eat, but
And me and you are like giant monsters to him, right?
yeah.
So the appearance of these snakes is something that makes the ball python so wildly popular. I would say you see more ball pythons than any reptile we've ever seen at a reptile show.
Yeah.
I mean, vendors got like 60, 70 ball pythons in one reptile show. The amount of morphs that these guys come in is insane. And it seems like a new morph comes out like every single year. You've got all kinds of different ones that have like the wild pattern scheme that we've seen to this one here.
The appearance about these guys is, so they have really, really cool pattern. They can change to other colors, not just white.
When there's like other morphs, right?
And yeah.
And one positive thing about having all those breeders out there and the amount of ball pythons, an excellent thing about them is the overwhelming majority on the market today are going to be captive bred. And you always want a captive bred snake, right?
Yeah.
Now, why do you think they call them ball pythons?
Because it looks like they don't have anything on them, but they do have scales.
Oh yeah, I think you're thinking bald. They call them ball pythons because I used to always think it was because of their like bulbous head, like how it's kind of like ball shaped.
Yeah.
But no, it actually has to do with their defense mechanism. Is when they feel threatened or in danger, they curl themselves up into a ball. You've seen him do that, right? When we first got him?
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like a baseball he curls himself into, right?
Yeah. Because they think that it's pointless and
They think it's like protecting them.
yeah, and they think that it's like protecting them.
And then where do you think ball pythons come from in the world? Naturally.
In the wild.
You're absolutely right.
The northern Africa and the wild.
Yes, you're absolutely right. They come from northern and western Africa is where you naturally find these guys.
Yep.
Wouldn't you love to take a trip there one day and go find some?
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Ball pythons are actually one of the smallest species of pythons. And from a family that includes like the reticulated python and Burmese python, it's easy to see why.
Yeah.
You remember what the world's longest snake is?
Reticulated pythons.
Exactly. So he comes from the same family as those, but he only gets about a quarter of the size that a reticulated python gets.
Yeah, but guys, if they're near them, if they're near reticulated pythons, they'll try and eat them or danger them or anything like that.
They could, especially with their size. Female ball pythons will get about 4 to 5 feet, but males, like this guy here, Casper is a male, will get to about 2 or 3 feet, which that is a perfect size snake for you.
Yeah.
Ball pythons in captivity have also been recorded of living up to 40 years. But that's only if you take very good care of them, right?
Yeah.
You gotta take really good care of them.
Yeah.
ball pythons actually have these little spurs near the end of their tail. Do you know what those are? So those are the remnants of legs when snakes used to have legs, but they slowly evolved and no longer had legs. But those spurs, on most pythons and boas, they have those spurs. But isn't that crazy how like snakes used to have legs?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. And now their legs are gone. And guys,
They like to slither.
yeah,
I've heard some people come up with some pretty funny nicknames for those spurs too.
like what?
Just funny stuff. So next, Natalie and I actually wanted to touch on something that has long been debated in the reptile community with ball pythons, and that's whether they make a good starter or beginner snake or not.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think these guys are really, really cool.
But for as many people that you will find say ball pythons make an excellent beginner snake, you'll probably find just as many that tell you no, they're not a good beginner snake.
Hey, Daddy,
What?
look right here. It has scales like mermaids.
Like a mermaid?
Yeah.
Kind of like fish, right?
Fish has scales like
That's right.
this.
They do.
And guys, this guy's belly is really, really soft. I am feeling it right now. It's really, really soft.
Yeah, that's kind of why they curl up into a ball, is to protect their belly and their head.
Daddy, do you want to feel his belly?
Let's start with the pros of the ball python. One is they're pretty docile nature. Now, obviously, each snake is different, that it can really depend on the individual snake. But generally speaking, with the majority of ball pythons, they're usually very, very docile. Kind of like this guy. He's really nice, right?
Yeah.
Now, we've also heard of and actually seen people with ball pythons that are a lot more aggressive. And like we said, I mean, it really depends on the
He's
individual
going right up
snake.
to my hair.
Is he?
Yeah.
He wants to get to the top, king of the castle.
Yeah.
The second thing that people would say they make a good beginner snake for is they're generally low maintenance. Now, I would say a hognose snake is easier to care for, a corn snake is easier to care for, but all in all, they are pretty low maintenance and pretty easy to care for. But they're a snake that you need to make sure you're doing the things right, because even those small mistakes can be detrimental to them. And number three, like we already said, is the overwhelming majority of them on the market today are going to be captive bred, which is always a plus over wild caught, right?
Mm-hmm. Hey, look at that brown part of his nose.
Oh yeah, his nooper.
Yeah.
It's got some dirt on it.
Nooper.
And then now on to the negatives. One is the humidity. So if you've only owned like hognose snakes, corn snakes, you've probably never really had to or had any issues with keeping a certain humidity level. That can be pretty difficult with people that are new to it, don't really know what humidity is or what's it for, and depending on the enclosure, it can be difficult at times to keep a perfect humidity level.
If I was a snake, I would probably will. And if Daddy Daddy, what do you say about the car if I was a snake and you put some stuff in it? What would you do?
If you were a snake,
Yeah.
I would give you like a snake mansion. You would have the biggest snake enclosure in the world.
Like the whole house?
Oh yeah. I put little tubes around the house so you can go from like one room to the other. And number two, ball pythons have a reputation for being picky eaters. And as a snake owner, that can be incredibly stressful for you and even for the snake. And number three is, although the overwhelming majority of them are captive bred now,
Yeah.
and it avoids a lot of those diseases they can get in the wild, is there are some health concerns that can come up from humidity. You have like scale rot, mouth rot, respiratory infections, And if you've never dealt with anything like that before with a snake, that as well can be very stressful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having a sick snake, we don't want that. I feel so bad for the boy. Okay, now let's move on to
Diet.
enclosure.
Enclosure.
Enclosure. So let us start by saying that we used to be firm believers in that snakes are found in the wild and they have essentially the entire world as an enclosure. The wide open plains of Africa, all as an enclosure, right? But we do believe there is a difference, and we certainly do still believe that, but we do also believe that there's a difference for baby and juvenile ball pythons, right?
Yep.
We have noticed that baby and juvenile ball pythons seem to do better in something smaller. And let us explain what we mean by smaller. So for this guy's enclosure, we definitely went the snake discovery route, right?
Mm-hmm.
How we set up his enclosure. But we went that route and a plastic bin route rather than a glass or PVC enclosure. But we got a plastic box for him, right?
Yeah.
So an absolutely excellent point that they made on snake discovery is whatever you're using it should be big enough that even the baby or juvenile can stretch their entire body out. So he's got room to move around. The plastic enclosure, the bin that we're using is 27 inches long, 18 inches wide, and 10 inches tall is what we have them in right now. And we will do a full enclosure setup video here soon for the ball python. So again, do we believe that a snake should have a very big enclosure to match what they have in the wild?
No.
Yes. They should have a very big enclosure, so they've got plenty of room. But with ball pythons, it seems that moving them directly into their adult enclosure or something really big seems to stress them out as babies and juveniles a lot more than most snakes, I would say. We definitely don't want him getting stressed out because that'll lead to things like him not eating. And then what do we do?
Dawson to help.
Called what?
Dawson to help.
Dawson?
Dawson.
Nurse him back to health. Gotcha. But yeah, we would have to. Good recommendation that Dad was taught was when you begin them in like his smaller enclosure, is a good way to move them eventually to the bigger enclosure is to put the smaller enclosure in the bigger enclosure with a way for them to leave the smaller one. But you gotta leave the smaller enclosure open so that he can leave that enclosure, go explore the bigger one, and he kinda moves into it on his own terms. That way he feels safer. As far as heating and lighting for the ball python, we're not going to get too much into whether overhead heat works better, heat mats do better, ceramic heat. We could do a whole video on some of the pros and cons of each of those, so if that is something you guys want to see, leave a comment down below. But what we're using is just a heat mat for him. Two things with a heat mat that are very important. One, it goes under the enclosure, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't actually burn him.
Yeah.
And with burning him is, without a doubt, if you buy a heat mat, it is a necessity, a thermostat. Because those heat mats just go up and up and up. They're not regulated at all. You can't set the heat on them. But with a thermostat, you can actually set the heat and adjust the heat for their enclosure. And it also avoids like you were saying earlier, his belly is very soft. His belly is very, very susceptible to be burned on something like that. Don't want that.
Yeah. Then that would really, really hurt.
That would hurt him.
Yeah. And if that hurt him, he would not like being held.
That is exactly right. He'll think we did something wrong.
Yeah.
We'll also leave links down below in the description of all the items that we use and where to find those things. So, coming from Africa, do you think it's warm in Africa or cold?
Warm.
Warm. It's very warm. So, he needs something to match that.
Yeah.
So the basking spot for a ball python should be at 90 degrees with an ambient temperature of 80 to 85 degrees and nighttime temperatures no lower than like 76, 75 degrees. Because snakes are what?
Cold-blooded.
Cold-blooded, and he needs what to stay warm?
Warm.
Warm to stay warm. Also with the snake discovery route, we did a humidity box for Casper. So they made an excellent video on how to create a humidity box, kind of just like the one we did. And with that humidity box, they should have at least 3 hides. Well, at least 2, but we have 3, one being the humidity box,
Yeah.
1 hide on the cool end, and 1 hide on the hot end.
Yeah.
So he's got choices, and that way he can regulate his body temperature.
Yeah, so if you want cold, you can go to the cold part. If you want warm, you can go to the warm part. And the warm place. And you want to go hot, you can go to the hot place.
You're absolutely right. Perfect. All right, so you ready for the final part?
Yeah.
On to
Diet.
diet. So as we said, ball pythons can be pretty picky eaters. However, a lot of that can be due to husbandries, and that can stress the snake out, cause them to not eat. So hopefully with the rest of this video and everything we went over before, that will minimize the chances of them not feeding. Natalie and I would also like to stress the importance of getting a ball python. Stress. We'd also like to stress the importance of getting a ball python that's already eating, right?
Yeah.
That's very important. And like we've said before, you gotta find a reputable breeder, because at the end of the day, somebody's just trying to sell you a snake and they can say whatever they want to get you to buy it. So always go with a reputable breeder, somebody that if they tell you they're eating, you can trust that they're eating. Because we wouldn't want a snake that's not eating, right?
Yeah. Because me and Daddy got whipped off, so we wanted a green tree monitor. The person said he is good, and then
We ended up getting scammed.
and we got getting scammed. No, none of them gave the money back or nothing like that. Nobody gave the money back.
We are definitely still getting a green tree monitor though, right?
Yeah, we never give
One
up.
day.
We never give up.
Yeah, we're never giving up on that green tree monitor.
Yeah.
So, one question for you. Are these guys venomous?
No.
No. So, like boas, they are constrictors, non-venomous constrictors, which means they kill their prey by when they bite into it, they wrap their body around it and squeeze it until the animal dies. Crazy.
Yeah.
And not that that's a huge deal or anything, but for somebody that's never seen an animal eat like that, it can look kind of violent, so just keep that in mind when getting a ball python, or any python in general. Ball python's diet will consist entirely of rodents, mice, rats, and you sometimes like the mice and rats we get, don't you?
Yeah, but guys, if your kids say don't do it, you have to do it, because life
That's
is
how
life.
they eat in nature, right?
Yeah.
And then the rule of thumb with them is to never feed them anything thicker than the largest part of their body. So do you see how he is like much bigger down here?
Yeah.
Well, did you
What
know
the-
snakes... Ew, excuse you.
Excuse me.
Did you know that snakes can like dislocate their jaws so that they can fit their mouth around bigger prey? But you
I
should
like
never...
little dolls.
Yeah, you should never give them anything too big though. So the
Yeah.
rule of thumb is like nothing bigger
Whoa.
than the thickest part of their body. There are also sites that will tell you exactly how big the prey should be based on their weight. You can easily Google that and find that equation anywhere. But from just looking at the mice and everything, again, nothing too big for them. So you'll be beginning with things like fuzzies, rat pups, and then eventually working your way up as they get bigger. But
Yeah.
sometimes we like them fuzzies. They're pretty cute.
Yeah.
Ball python weight can be a bit difficult. So they're not like a skinny tree boa or reticulated python, anything like that. His body is kind of like thicker, right?
Yeah.
You know what it reminds me of?
No.
Like a gaboon viper, where their body is like really thick and they're kind of shorter. So that's something you definitely need to watch out for, is obesity with ball pythons. There is an absolutely excellent chart it's on ReptiFiles, and we will put the link down in the description, but it gives you visual pictures of when your snake is becoming overweight, when it becomes obese, and it gives like specific details of how to spot it. So when you're dealing with a naturally thicker snake, it's a little more difficult, I would say, to gauge a healthy weight. But he should look kind of like this, right?
Yeah.
He's a fit boy. Alright guys, so that does it for Casper the ball python. If you guys found this informative or interesting, make sure to leave us a like. And don't forget to subscribe, as we're going to do something new this coming up Wednesday.
Yep.
You'll see. So stay tuned, and we also got more reptiles to go over, right?
Yeah.
We got a lot of plans in the future. But thank you guys very much for watching. Can you say thank you?
Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye guys. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Monday.
Say bye, Casper.
Bye.